2013. She worked in Cobourg, Ontario, Canada for 3 years before relocating to the US in 2017. She's currently living and practicing in Oklahoma, USA. Dr. Kemi is here to talk about the vaccine. We all know how COVID-19 has affected each and every one of us in different ways. And it seems the vaccine might be one of the hopes we need to end this pandemic. So let's listen to Dr. Kemi as she shares with us. Welcome, Dr. Kemi.
Hello.
Hi, Dr.
Kemi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. Thank you. Yes, my name is Kemi Osholake. I'm a board-certified family physician in Canada and also in the US, and I'm currently practicing medicine, comprehensive family medicine, in Oklahoma here in the US. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this engaging and informative session. Thanks to Adiba Connector. Thanks to all our essential workers out there who, along with themselves and their families, continue to do their best in these very difficult times. And thanks to Mrs. Dada for shining a light on the importance of mental health, which is often, unfortunately, highly underrepresented in our community. So I'll be talking about COVID vaccines. I have no disclosures. I have not received any money, any funding, or any gifts from any of the vaccine manufacturers. Neither have I received any kind of funding from the organizers of today's event, Adiba Connector. Currently, we're on, and that's the reason why we're having a Zoom event right now, because we all know we're in the middle of a raging pandemic caused by the novel coronavirus referred to as COVID-19. Worldwide right now, we have about 103 million cases with about 2.2 million deaths. I know there are people listening to this program from all over the world, US, Canada, and Nigeria. In Nigeria right now, we have about 829 cases with 1,500 deaths. Now, maybe more than that, but we're counting the numbers, and it's more and more concerning on a day-to-day basis. There's a huge burden on healthcare, on the economy, and also, as Mrs. Zada correctly stated, there's a strong impact a negative impact on mental health, which is often underrepresented. Some people are at a higher risk of disease burden. Unfortunately, the Black and the Latinx communities have been disproportionately affected by a higher mortality rate. Some of the people who are at a higher risk of having a higher having complications from COVID infections are, the elderly, the immunocompromised, the people who have chronic illnesses like asthma, obesity, diabetes, and other types of cancers. So we're doing everything we can to stop this pandemic, to reduce the healthcare burden. And it requires using all the tools that we have available. Right now, we've been doing a lot of the social distancing, trying to avoid crowds as much as you can, avoiding unnecessary trips, staying 6 feet away from people. If you have to be in crowded places, or if you have to be out in public, being 6 feet away, wearing a mask. And right now, with the emergence of the new variants, which seem to be more easily transmissible, we're talking about even double masking right now. Vaccination is another tool that has become available, or relatively available, given that the rollout has been a disaster. But that's another tool that we have right now. And vaccination can help reach a level of herd immunity, which makes it harder for the disease to spread from person to person. And it also protects those who can't get the vaccine. For example, our newborns or people who have certain medical conditions or anaphylactic reactions to the vaccines. So they can't get the vaccine. So this kind of helps protect them. We're right now unsure of how many people we need to vaccinate to reach that level, but it's thought that it's somewhere around the 75 to 85% of the population needs to be vaccinated to get a herd immunity. So I'm cognizant of my time, so I'm just going to dive into the vaccines. So to understand how they work, we must first kind of understand how our body fights germs and, you know, illnesses. So when germs like the COVID-19, which is a virus, when it invades our body, they attack and cause inflammation. Unfortunately, they use our body to multiply and cause further inflammation. It may take our body several days or even weeks to make and activate all the germ fighting mechanism that we've been given, that we've been created with. It may take our body several days and weeks to kind of summon all of them needed to overcome that infection. However, when your body gets over that infection, it remembers. Most of the time, it remembers with the help of a whole bunch of things and a whole bunch of cells, like your memory T cells, right? So generally, vaccines work with your body's natural defenses to get ready to fight that infection or that germ when it is exposed to it, if and when it is exposed to it. And I hope that makes sense. So right now, there are two vaccines that are widely available and it's been FDA approved for emergency use authorization. That's the ones that you've been hearing about. That's the Pfizer and the BioNTech vaccine, which is 2 doses that's separated by 21 days. And there's the Moderna vaccine, which is also 2 doses separated by 28 days. There are other vaccines right now going through their phase 3 trials. Some of them have just recently completed phase 3 trials. You'll be hearing about them soon from AstraZeneca, from Janssen, and Novavax. So these 2 vaccines that I mentioned, they've made a lot of news lately, although they're not itself new, but they're relatively new to the general public because they're mRNA vaccines, right? Now, mRNA, DNA, this causes a whole bunch of anxiety, a whole bunch of, oh my gosh, are they going to clone me? Am I going to have wings? Am I going to be able to fly? Are they going to put a chip in me? So there are a whole bunch of anxieties around what exactly these mRNA vaccines are. So I'm just going to briefly just talk about what it is. So your DNA, which basically encodes all your bodily functions, it's tucked away in the innermost part of your cell called the nucleus. It's tucked away, but it sends all of the messages it's encoding to the outer part of your cell through what we call the RNA, specifically the mRNA, which is a messenger RNA. Your DNA is tucked in the nucleus. It's there. It's protected there. It sends a message to the cell, right, through the messenger RNA to go do whatever. So to go build proteins for this, or to go, if you need more of something, it sends that message through that mRNA. When that mRNA is done delivering the message, it breaks down and that's it, right? So these vaccines that we're using, it's basically, it's not a DNA vaccine. It's not impacting your DNA. It's not going into the nucleus. It's going into your body as a message for you to make a protein that when your body recognizes that, it's kind of summons all of the disease fighting mechanism it has, right? So that when you're actually exposed, if and when you're exposed to the COVID vaccine, you don't have to wait 1 or 2 weeks to get all of these cells ready. They're already ready. So that's how a lot of all these other vaccines work. The other vaccines that you may have heard of, they're a bit different from these ones because they actually use either the weakened germ itself or they use an inactivated version of that germ so that when your body sees it, it develops an immune response, so it's ready. So when you're actually exposed to that disease itself, you may not even notice it, because the soldier cells, think of them as soldier cells, they're ready to fight that infection because of the vaccination. And generally, once these mRNA vaccines once they deliver the message, they're degraded. It can't go back into the nucleus. mRNA isn't converted back to DNA. That only happens in the lab. That doesn't happen in your body. Your body doesn't do that. Okay, so mRNA vaccines platform, like I said, they're not new. They've been researching on them for decades. It's going to be the future of medicines, treatment for cancers, and treatment for a whole bunch of things. But we're just hearing about them now because it's the first time that they're actually heavily being used. And that's because we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? It's being studied for things like Zika, rabies, and also the flu. The flu vaccine is a it's different. That's not, it's not an mRNA vaccine. Some concerns have come up about, the safety of the vaccine because of how fast it became available. It's gone through the same vigorous safety and effectiveness standards as all the other vaccines available in the US and Canada. They've undergone phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 trials, just like any of the other vaccines that is available in the US and Canada. And they continue to be monitored for any future adverse reactions, just like any other vaccine in the US and Canada. There are systems that monitor for, in case there are other symptoms that may develop that was not initially picked up in the, first round, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 clinical trials. In case something showed up, they want to be able to monitor to figure out, could this be related to the vaccine? And based on the numbers, based on statistics, they can kind of do a risk-benefit analysis. And I hope that kind of makes sense. So the speed of the vaccine is not because they're cutting corners. There's so many different things that has impacted the speed of making this vaccine available. Number one is because they've been working on this platform for a long time, right? And then the most important thing, which is a lesson for us, is that because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and based on the kind of economy you're in, if you're in a capitalist economy or a socialist economy, when something impacts your money, you do everything you can to make sure that that thing stops or that thing gets under control. So right now, people are not fighting with governments to send money to donate or to put money towards certain types of developments, because we're in the middle of a pandemic that's impacting the economy significantly and negatively, right? So we have a whole bunch of funding available, and we have a whole bunch of collaboration. Like the first one I mentioned, the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine. BioNTech is a German company. I have never seen this kind of collaboration in medicine in my short life, but like, this is awesome. This is what we need. So there's a lot of collaboration going out there. People are working, round the clock to be able to get things available, to be able to make things, available to the public to pretty much end this pandemic. And we also got the results that we needed within a shorter period of time, because we are in a pandemic. Usually when you go through clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you're vaccinating some people and kind of seeing how easily the disease is transmitted. Because the disease is already easily transmitted, we get those numbers much faster than other diseases that may be otherwise rare, because you kind of have to give it the time to actually see see how it's going through the public. But right now we're in a pandemic, so we get our information quickly, right? Just because of the nature of the disease itself. There's other issues about, distrust of the government and health information, and especially within the Black and Latinx communities. And rightly so. This is due to, prolonged history of social injustice and medical malpractice and medical racism, pretty much. I don't know if, some of you may have heard about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment or study that was done in the US here in 1932. So things like that raises a lot of valid concerns. But at this moment, you have to think about, what's the risk of not getting the vaccine, and what's the risk of getting the vaccine? Right now, we're in a pandemic. The burden on the economy, the burden on people, the burden on, people's lives and living, their ability to pay their bills and care for their little ones. We have to think of all of that burden right now. I want to reassure you that this vaccine is safe. It's not, we haven't cut through any corners, and it hasn't been like the steps that other vaccines need to go through and other medications need to go through. Actually, vaccines are held at a much higher standard than medications. So all the medications out there in the market, they haven't gone through as much scrutiny as this vaccine has gone through. or any other vaccines, generally vaccines, because vaccine is for the healthy population. You're trying to prevent diseases in a healthy population, so they go through a higher level of scrutiny. So I'm hoping that this can be a little bit reassuring for you. And seriously, if you have any questions, I'm going to leave my time just to kind of talk through, to answer questions. If there are any questions you have out there, we'll talk through it. And if I can get answers for you, I can certainly get the answers to Adeba Connector.
I have a question, Dr.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. Actually, the questions will be asked later after the first session. But if you may, you can put your questions in the comment section so that she can actually answer it in the comment section. But the questions will be allowed after the first section, then you can ask your questions. But in the meantime, you can put it in the comments so it will not be forgotten. And she can also reply in the comment section. Due to time, we can't ask him questions at the moment.
So thanks again, Adeba Connector, for doing this. It's a privilege to be invited to talk on a platform like this. And I don't have any Twitter or stuff like that, but I have an email address and I will send it to Adeba Connector. If you have any questions, please send it to me and I will try to get you answers as much as possible.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kemi. We're happy to have you. We're happy for the information you've granted us. And yes, she will be having her email on the comment section, so look out for that. And if you have any private questions, you may email it to her. And if it's not so private, of course, you can put it in the comment section where she can answer and also give everybody who was probably asking the same question the same answer. So thank you so much, Dr. Kemi. So